back to the YouTube channel Pro Ends of Vids, and tonight's video is my sort of ranking on some spines that I really am looking forward to next year. And I know there's a lot of teams that have spines that are not really set in stone yet, or not like, I guess, confirmed where this player would play and whatever, but if I'm to make a prediction and go off potential, what it could look like, a spine for next year, that's what I'll do. So yeah, I reckon whatever, but if I'm to make a prediction and go off potential, what it could look like, a spine for next year, that's what I'll do. So yeah, I reckon this is how I would rank these spines, and they're the top 5 spines I'm looking forward to from these NRL clubs. Before I do start, please be sure to like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and comment your thoughts in the comment section down below. I might as well say this as well, that I'm currently at 3,800 subscribers, and my goal is to get to 3,800 subscribers, and I'm currently on 3,789. That's the exact number, but I'm actually supposed to get to 3,800 subscribers, so that's the goal. And yeah, please do subscribe if you're new watching right now. But other than that, should be a a good sort of talking piece, this one. I guess there's a few shockers in there that you might be surprised about, but I'll go through the details on why I think these are the spines I'm looking forward to for next year. So without further ado, let's get into it. So number 5, I've got the West Tigers for the first one. Now, you might be all questioning this one, so why I have the Tigers in number 5? And I can explain why. Now, look, I know that the Tigers don't have much going for them, only because of them getting back-to-back spoons and them just, I guess, struggling for so long. But I feel like a spine of Doreen Buller, Jayden Sullivan / Latu Fainu, because I don't know who would start in round 1. But one of them could be jersey 14 too, for all we know, potentially. And then hooker is Api Korosia. But if I'm just to make a bold prediction to what the spine will actually be, I feel like they'll start with Doreen Buller, Jayden Sullivan, Aiden Caesar, and Api Korosia hooker. And to be honest, that's not a bad spine, if I'm being honest. I think that's a spine I'm quietly looking forward to. Now, I know the Tigers still are a long way from being a top team. They're probably the youngest team next year, because most of their top 30 contains 17 to 19-year-olds, which is crazy. Or just 20-year-olds at max. You know, it's a very young team they've got next year. But yeah, I guess it's exciting to see where that talent does go in the future. But in terms of their spine, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it, because we saw in 2023 Doreen Buller's breakout season and how he looks like a fullback and a player for the future. And yeah, you know, I feel like with him, it's like, okay, it's either he has a second-year syndrome next year, which I really hope he doesn't, because we've seen so many times rookies have great first years, and the next years they have that second-year syndrome where they don't back up their great form in their rookie season from the year before. So I'm really hoping it's not the case with Buller, but I feel like he's got a lot of potential, and he impressed for me for Fiji against Cook Islands and PNG in those games he played. So I think he's got a lot of potential to still build his game next year and going forward. And then you've got the halves, Jayden Sullivan and Aiden Caesar. Latu Fainu could be there, but because he's so young still, I think they might develop him slowly. But if it is Jayden Sullivan and Aiden Caesar, look, it's a new look halves pairing. Obviously, Jayden Sullivan's a player that has always had potential, but has struggled to maintain his spot in the regular 17 for the Dragons, which for me says a lot. But he's got potential, and I think he's got exciting talent with him. And the halfback Aiden Caesar, which I'll be honest, I really like the signing of Aiden Caesar. I know people are going to say that he's too old now and probably won't do much for the Tigers, but I tend to disagree, because, I know in the Super League is looking a bit slow as well, but, he's got to think about it. He's experienced. The Tigers don't really have a halfback, or haven't really had a half since Benji in a while. They have called the shots and really have taken control of the team. And see, with Aiden Caesar, he's been in grand finals. He's been with good teams in the Super League, and obviously at Canberra when they were going really well back then. And I think, yeah, his experience will be vital for the Tigers, and I think he'll be good for those young halves like Jayden Sullivan, Latu Fainu, Lachlan Galvin, another young guy there. So he'll be really crucial for those young players especially, and I think him at halfback is a good choice. I know he may be a bit old now, but it's vital experience, because the Tigers have such a young team. You need experience there and the right amount of experience around those young guys, So I think Caesar's going to be pretty good for the Tigers next year. I've got a feeling. And then hooker Api Korosia, which despite the Tigers losing 70 games this year, and pretty much coming last again for back-to-back seasons. Api Koroisau was probably their best player all year, I'd say. It goes between him, Buller, and I don't know who else you can really think of, but maybe, I don't know, maybe Clemmer. He was alright, I guess, but the better one was obviously Api. But yeah, look, I think Koroisau in his first year at the Tigers, where he was leaving a premiership winning team, Penrith, which would have been tough to do. He came to the Tigers, and I feel like he's done a pretty good job there, honestly. I think he's done pretty well, despite Tigers struggling still. And I think with him having Caesar and Sullivan there, both more creative halves, and both halves that have a good skill mindset, I think that might open up Appy a bit more as well to do his bit. And Buller's getting better too, and I think we've seen Buller and Appy have better connections as well during the year. So yeah, I'm pretty keen to see how this goes. Can Benji get the spine to click? If that is the spine, have to wait and see, but I'm pretty keen for that. Number 4, I've got the New Zealand Warriors, or as we all should say, the Wars. Look, I think the Warriors for me are a side that, could fall off potentially next year, but they still got a talented team, and that team still probably takes them at least between 10th to maybe 4th, 3rd at best. It's a good team still, and it's a team that I'm not writing off. But look, with the Warriors, they're in their spine. What is it going to be? Charnze Klukstad, Luke Metcalf, I'd say would start 5'8" over Murray Martin, I feel like, and halfback Sean Johnson and hooker Wade Egan. Now, if that spine can stay injury-free and consistent for another year, so I think the Warriors are definitely building towards, an inching closer towards a premiership, I feel like, or at least a grand final berth. But, with the Warriors, it's every year their spine's changing normally. Like, it's never really a consistent spine. And see, that's why the Warriors have just been, I guess, missing the finals for so long, is because they don't keep their spine the same. Like, it's always a mix of players, always different, the team as well. Like, the team in general always changes, but the Warriors have actually kept the team together for next year mainly, so that's pretty good to see. But with the spine, since it's so crucial, you got to always keep the spine the same for at least another year. And the Warriors have done that, I feel like, which is a huge thing, because they've struggled to do that in the past. But Nickel Klukstad had a great year for the Warriors, and returning back home to New Zealand, he's obviously embraced being back in Auckland, and he loves the club, it seems like, and he's been killing it this year for the Warriors. And I feel like that's a big part of the reason why him and his form for the Warriors has been so good, because he's back in a home environment. And I think he had a great year this year too, and I think he'll back it up if he has the same guys around him as he did this year. But then look at the halves, like, they give him ball, like Metcalf and Murray Martin. Like, I'd say Metcalf hits the spot because, well, look, let's be honest, the Warriors looked a lot better when Luke Metcalf was playing at 5'8" instead of T. Murray Martin. And that's no knock to T. Murray Martin, because I think he's still a decent player, and still is a player that, does a job and offers a lot on his day. But I think you can clearly see that they struggled without Metcalf, and then missed his spark and his speed and attack. And I feel like Metcalf really freed up Sean Johnson too into what he can do in attack. So I feel like Metcalf is the future there. I know they've got Ronald Volkman, but I think he's a bit more further behind the rest, unfortunately for him. But yeah, no, I think Metcalf and Johnson together for another year, I think will be really good for the Warriors. Build that chemistry between the two, and that could go a long way potentially. And hook away at Egan. Well, look, Egan's so consistent. People used to knock him a few years ago, but the way Egan is conducting himself into games a lot more this year in 2023, it's pretty remarkable. And he's a tackling workhorse. His attack's improved as well. And yeah, overall, he's really just fixed his game, and he seems to be a lot more of a complete player compared to what he was a few years ago. So yeah, and he was named captain for a game this year too for the Warriors, I believe, and that says a lot. So, I think the Warriors are definitely looking healthy and good for next year, as long as they can keep consistent, and as long as they can keep the same sort of spine. I think Nickel Klukstad, Metcalf, Johnson, and Egan is a top 8, potentially top 4 spine there. And that's why I'm looking forward to seeing how they go for another year in a row, because, as I said before, the Warriors have never had a real consistent spine for the next season. So, and they're finally keeping an unchanged spine next year. So that's why I'm keen to see how that chemistry will go. And Webster will definitely, try and do what he did for the Warriors this year into next year too. So, if you're a Warriors fan, I'll be excited for next year. I think there's a lot of potential, and I think the spine is looking strong as ever. Number 3, it's a very interesting one, and it's one that, I think it has proven to be really good for that one season in 2023. But one part of me asks as well if they can really back up what they did next year compared to this year. And that's the Brisbane Broncos. And the Broncos, great year by them, honestly. They had a great season for this year. And their spine was pretty much the main reason why they were so good this year, I feel like. Guys like Reece Walsh at the back, who came home from the Warriors, has just gone absolute nuts, and he's a talented young player with a big future. He'll, when he retires, he'll, have a lot to look back on, I feel like. And the halves are Ezra Mam and Adam Reynolds, which them two clicked really well. Obviously Mam made his debut in 2022, and Adam Reynolds joined the club in 2022. And Mam wasn't really playing much first grade last year, but after their first full year together, it seems to be a match made in heaven, and that match made in heaven took them to the grand final, and it's unfortunate they lost, but, whatever. But, yeah, what can you do? Panthers are too good. But that halves pairing was really good for the Broncos, and I feel like for another year that excites me to see how they do go. And a hooker, you've got Billy Walters as well. I mean, not many people rated him at first as well, because he wasn't really a established hooker, but he seems to be similar to Wade Egan and Lachlan Croker a little bit. Billy Walters, originally a half, but sort of transitioned to a hooker like Croker for Manly. And he's really done a good job this year. He seems to be kicking 40-20s in dummy half too. Seems to run the ball a fair bit too. So, he's actually done really well this year, Billy Walters, and I feel like for another year in a row under his dad too, I think that gives him more confidence to be a player that he was this year to next year. And I think that's why I'm looking forward to seeing how the Broncos spine goes, because Walsh and Mam are two excitement machines, and they bring the attack and the speed. And how many times did we see Ezra Mam and Reece Walsh score individual tries and combine for tries too? It's obviously exciting. Both of them are still so young as well. And, I think them two together for another year is scary. And I think that's why the Broncos will still be a top 4 team, because they've kept them two, tight, and they've already proven what their worth is. And I think for another year, showing what their worth is for next year, it's why I'm looking forward to seeing how they do go. And Reynolds and Reynolds the halfback too, Mr. Captain Experience. He's played in multiple grand finals, one at Combat South, not yet at Broncos, but has a good chance to still do so there. And I think with Reynolds, it's like he is proven, and he always turns up no matter what. So, and obviously he's been beneficial for the young Broncos team and also for the players. He's made players around him a lot better, I feel like, in his 18 months there, pretty much. So, I think Reynolds for another year he'll be hurting after losing to the Panthers again in a grand final. Like, he lost against the Panthers in the 2021 grand final. He lost against the Panthers this year in the grand final in 2023. And I reckon 2024, his stomach will be burning for success. And I feel like he'll be looking to get that in next year. And Billy Walters, like I said, has really improved his game. And I feel like him combining with the rest of a strong forward pack of Haas, Carrigan, Corey Jensen potentially, if he starts next year for the Broncos. It's exciting, and I think that's where that spine may really look to play off the back of that strong forward pack as well, and talented backs they have. So, I don't know. The Broncos for me have a good spine still, and I think after it'll be really interesting to see how they do react after losing the grand final, and if their confidence is still there or not. Some teams do dip off after losing a grand final, but with the Broncos, for me, it's exciting to see what they do look like in the future and what they look like going forward. So, I'm keen to see how their spine connects next year. Right, in number 2, I've got my beloved Manly Sea Eagles. So, I guess it's probably a bit of my love for the club. That's why they're up so high in my top 5. That's my list, so I'm happy to choose in number 2. But No, look, honestly, if I'm, sounding realistic at the moment, it's a spine where I'm actually am keen to see how it all goes. And I know it's easy to say as a Manly fan because it's my club and, I'm keen about everything with the club in 2024. But just like, I think with the big signing of Luke Brooks is going to be one that determines a lot about us next year, I feel like. To see how he goes with Tom Trbojevic at fullback, Daly Cherry-Evans in the halves, and then Croker at hooker. It's a spine where it's actually been together for a few years now. Like, Croker's actually developed into a nice hooker over time, and, obviously there was some doubts about him being a hooker long term, but, he's done well enough to be a starting hooker, I feel like, for the rest of the meantime, and he's re-signed until 2026, so that shows to me that Siebes and the coaching staff have long-term faith in Croker, which I trust in that call. And I believe he is a long-term option for us as well. And you got to remember, Croker finally has a sub on the bench, and I think Croker is a player where he can play 80 minutes, and he'll have no drama playing 80 minutes. But I think there's games where he may need a break as well. And I think having Gordon, Chang, Kum Tong on the bench is going to be really good for us as well. So having Gordy there rotating with Croker for me is going to be probably something that will help our attack a bit more and our team as well. But yeah, look, I think our spine is really dangerous on its day. If Turbo can play 15 plus games, and if Cherry-Evans can back up his 2023 form and play the same as he did this year, because he was bloody incredible this year. He was incredible, and he's always consistent, Ches, but 2023 was a year that it felt like he was just playing without any pressure, and he really played his own style, it felt like for me. And if Brooks can, develop well in a change of scenery and getting away from the Tigers for the first time and playing alongside Turbo, Cherry-Evans, Croker, and a great four-pack having Paseka, Olakawatsu, and Jake Trbojevic in there, then I think our team in general is going to be really good next year, and it's going to be frightening, just quietly. And I think that spine is going to be a lot more ranked higher, I feel like, and I feel like that could be, with all the 17 clubs out there, if that whole spine of us clicks, I think it goes really close to the top, I feel like, because you think about it, Brooks is a great running half, and probably, has all the pressure on him at the Tigers being a halfback every week, and that did not help his confidence at all. But I think having someone like Cherry-Evans who has been through all the crap and has been through adversity his whole career, I think that'd be really good for Brooks, having someone like him alongside him, and having Turbo there too. And we know how good Turbo is on his day. He's probably the best fullback in the game. I can go as far as saying that. Not everyone will agree, but he's definitely a top 3 fullback on his day, and people forget that because of injuries he's had. But when you think about a fully fit spine of Tom Trbojevic, Luke Brooks, Cherry-Evans, and Croker, is exciting, and I think that whole spine in total is going to be a spine that I'm looking forward to, and I think most neutral NRL fans that are not Manly fans would agree. So I'm having that as my number 2 there. But as for number 1 now, and number 1 is a big one because this club has a spine where it can be anything at the moment, but I've got the Bulldogs number 1 actually, and the Bulldogs number 1. I think their spine's a spine where I'm looking forward to seeing how it does look for next year. Potentially Blake Taff or Stephen Crine at fullback. The halves are looking like Matt Burton, but / Blake Taff, because there's a rumour that Matt Burton might be shifted to the centres next year, which I don't know that will work. It could, but I think, I don't know, actually. It's a tough one, but yeah, it's either Burton or Taff at 5'8", and halfbacks between Sexton and Drew Hutchison, I imagine, and hookers Reid Marnie. But compared to other years, the Bulldogs actually have a spine where it has a bit of points in it, because I feel like having Crichton in the mix and having Taff in the mix and, Marnie there for another year with a bit more quality around him this time, I think that it screams a lot of points in there, but it just seems like they don't click with a structure properly. But if they do click, then I think it can be a really scary team, and it might be actually hard to beat on their day. But the spine in general, like if I had to predict the Bulldogs spine right now, I'd say Blake Taff fullback. The halves will be Burton and Sexton, I think still, but I wouldn't be shocked if Burton would actually move to the centres, but I can't see it yet, but we'll see what happens. And hooker Reid Marnie. And look, that spine's not bad, but it's a spine that's still very unproven, and that's probably why it might be a shock for me to have them that high up, at number 1. But I'm just excited for that, to see how it does go because of, who's there and whatever. I think that has a lot of potential to be really good. And I think Marnie being there for another year at hooker could do him good, because his first year was a bit disappointing and probably struggled a lot in 2023. But maybe second year in a row, maybe he can actually get used to the environment there and may actually thrive this time and build chemistry with the team. And then Burden at 5'8", it's a tough one, but I think Burden, as he gets older, will mature more, because everyone does mature a lot more as they get older. And I feel like with Burden, in his case, if he does stay in the halves, and I think he'll definitely find a level-headed approach when he plays in the halves, because I think he's a bit too frantic in the halves still, and probably does make too many mistakes. But hopefully for him, he just takes it a bit easy, and hopefully if he does start at 5'8", if he's a bit more calm with the footy. And then Toby Sexton or Drew Hutchison probably will be Sexton, but I don't know. Sexton for me is still, he's either a fringe first grader or a first grader, and it's a bit of a tough one, because I see him as a reserve grader, but also a decent first grader too. It's a tough one, and I don't know if Sexton's a long-term option for the Bulldogs. I mean, Hutchison's not bad, but I don't think he's a starting halfback. I think he's more depth of anything, but yeah, I think they're going to really rely on Sexton a lot, and that may work, but I don't think it. Well, I don't know. It's a tough one. I think Sexton is good, but if you're relying on Sexton and banking all your hope and worth into Sexton being a good halfback for the Bulldogs for a full year, then that's, I don't know. He's unfortunately crumbled under pressure before the Titans, Sexton. So I mean, having pressure against the Bulldogs and being the halfback for locked in at halfback, for example, then yeah, it won't help him. And the fullback, Taff or Crichton, but I'm going to say Taff. And yeah, look, I think Blake Taff's a great fullback. In 2021, debuted for Souths around the end of the year and played in a grand final in his first season, like playing less than 10 games. And he's proven that he is a good fullback. He's quick, got good ball playing skills, and not the biggest player in the game, but definitely got a lot of speed, and he's a bit of a nuggety size too, like a nugget size. So he'll be good for breaking through tackles at his size and speed. And yeah, no, I think I did think from the start that was a good signing from the Bulldogs, and I think it will be going forward. And yeah, no, I think I'm looking forward to seeing how he does go, combining with guys like Marnie and Sexton and Burden around him. I mean, him and Burden played together in the under-18s Blues team a few years ago, so they bring that relationship back together next year. But yeah, I don't know. The Bulldogs spine next year is very intriguing, and obviously, again, another rebuild sort of thing, and a few more changes to the team. So you got to hope it works this time, but it's a tough one, the Dogs, because you don't know what to expect. They look good on paper, but they don't really show on field. But yeah, they're going to prove that. But they do look exciting, I won't lie. But that's my top 5 spines I'm looking forward to seeing next year. Please do let me know in the comment section down below into who you're looking forward to seeing next year as an NRL spine together. But they're my 5, because I am intrigued to see how they all go, especially with some changes being made and seeing some players play yet again in that same position, seeing if they can go another level in 2024. But thank you for watching. As always, have a good night, and like, comment, and subscribe.